All right, let's continue with our revision. Now, this question is about uh, living and non-living things. All right, but before we do this question, let's revise the topic of living and non-living things. Now, what do we know about living and non-living things? Now, living and non-living things are two groups of things that are around us. Anything that is around us can be classified into these two groups, either a living, a non-living thing. Living things, first of all, need air, food, and water. You and I, is a very easy way to remember. All of us humans, we are living things, and we need air, food, and water to stay alive. Right? Non-living things like your table and chairs and your pen and your books, they are non-living things, so they do not need air, food, and water. Okay, that's the first thing to remember. Just remember that you are a living thing, so whatever food, air, and water that you would need, other living things would need too. All right. All right. The second thing you need to remember is that living things move by themselves. Okay, so why do they move? They move to look for food, they move to look for water, sometimes they move to look for shelter, and plants, especially, they sometimes move to find sunlight, right? Because we know that plants need sunlight to survive. So, these are some of the examples as to why living things move. These are not the only reason why things move. Later on, you will also learn for the upper primary school students. You will also learn that they need to move to find um, other members of its population, all right, to mate and to lay eggs or to give birth to their young. Okay, so living things do need to move by themselves, uh, and they normally move for the reasons like I've listed just before this. Now, non-living things do not move by themselves, but some of you might ask, Sazaki, how about cars? Cars move too, trains, all the vehicles. Well, they do move, but they don't move by themselves. They normally have an engine. They normally need, some form of a motor, and normally it's a living thing that controls that motor and drive those vehicles. They do not move by themselves, all right? But living things, they can move on their own. All right. Living things also respond to changes around them. Normally, they respond by moving. For example, right, the living things can move towards food whenever it's hungry. Living things, when they see a source of food, they will respond by moving towards it. Whenever they see a source of water, for example, they will respond by going towards it because it needs food and water. Sometimes when in something happens around it, it will run for shelter. That's responding. Okay. Um, you know, living things also respond when there is danger around it. So, for example, like predators, some animals do not like sunlight. Uh, when they are exposed to sunlight, they will respond by moving away. Some plants, they do not like water on their leaves, so when their leaves are touched, right, either by water or by us, it will close. Forget me nots and the mimosa, right? You know that they will close their leaves whenever you touch them. Okay, so some plants, for example, they move towards sunlight, right? Plants normally grow towards the sunlight, and there's a lot of question that will ask you like that, right? So some plants generally grow towards sunlight. That's how they respond to changes. And some plants, for example, they would move. Some animals, for example, they will move away from sunlight. Animals that do not like sunlight will move away. So these are all the reasons why living things need to respond to the changes around them, because uh, many different animals like many different things, and they dislike many different things. Likewise, plants have certain things that they like and certain things that they don't. So they all respond to the things that are good for them, and they also respond to the things that are not good for them because they would like to uh, preserve their lives, all right, and they want to remain alive. That's why they respond to changes. Non-living things do not respond to changes around them. They would, because they don't have to. Okay, it does not affect them so much. It does not affect them at all. In fact, all right. Okay, so uh, another point to note is that living things reproduce and have young. So we have two kinds. For example, animals. Some animals lay eggs, like chickens, like lizards, turtles, about some most fishes, right? Birds. Whereas some living things reproduce by giving birth to their young alive, like humans, apes, monkeys, cats, right? The mammals, most of the mammals. Some snakes give birth to their young alive, and so on and so forth. Okay. Non-living things, they do not reproduce, right? The reason why there's a lot of non-living things around us that look the same is because it is we humans make them in factories. It's not because they reproduce on their own, right? Okay, but living things, on the other hand, they reproduce and have young either by laying eggs or giving birth to their young alive so that they can ensure the continuity of their own kind, of their own species. Cats would want to have babies so that there are more cats in the future. Like humans, right? Sorry, cats have kittens. Cats don't have babies. And humans have babies because we would like to have more humans in the future. Okay, so living things reproduce and have young. Non-living things do not. Living things also die. Anything that is alive will one day die. When they become old, all right, or when they fall very sick due to diseases, they do not have, or when they do not have enough air, water, or food for themselves, or when they are eaten up by other living things. All right, so many living things can die, whereas non-living things do not die because they are not alive in the first place. All right, so this is quite easy. So let's look at the question again. Sammy pours some fish food into his fish tank. The fish starts to swim to the surface of the water. So when you pour some fish food, okay, the fish starts to swim towards the food. Now let's look at the option. Living things can grow. Now, for you to say that the fish can grow definitely, but this particular question does not show that the fish can grow, because remember what we said, when the living things can grow if they uh, grow in size, grow in height, all right, or they look older. But in this particular example, they don't. All right, so sorry. Uh, So it's not about living things whether they can grow or not. Next one is living things are able to reproduce. There's no showing of them laying eggs or giving birth. So that's not correct. This particular question, particular example does not show that the fish can grow. It does not show that the fish are able to reproduce. Living things can respond to changes. In this particular case, it responded to the availability of food on the surface of the water. So it's moving towards the food. So that's responding to changes. And then living things can move by themselves. All right. So here we see that the fish is moving on its own because it's responding to changes. So with that, if you can try to derive the answer on your own, so that when I give you the worksheets in class, you're able to respond. All right, so just like my other videos, do repeat and replay the video if you didn't understand my explanation. Remember to listen actively. Do take notes. into your journal or draw a mind map of what I said, etc. If you still don't understand after playing the video many times, send me your questions through email. And if there are lots of questions of similar nature, I will respond in class. All right. And if you have, your own account, YouTube account, you can just write your comments below. A simple thing like saying, Mr. Zaki, I understand what you thought. That would really make me happy, so that I would know that you have seen the video and you've understood. Likewise, if you see any mistakes in my videos, you can also type your comments below or send me an email. All right, and I can correct them. All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.